to use metaphors. They have to use physical concepts to describe non-physical beings, okay? And for example, if it is said that the Prophet saw, first of all, Prophet didn't go to heaven with his body. He goes from Mecca to Masjid al-Aqsa with his body, and then from there, of course, it was a spiritual journey. It was not a physical journey. I mean, it's not possible for a Prophet to move high to the heaven with his body. But what he saw there was not physical at all, because that's not a physical realm. And when, for example, we say Imam Hussein's name is written on the ash, it means that he has a very high grade in those realms. The effect or the continuation of his dhikr and existence in this world is extending up to the arsh. And what he is in this world is also understood from the arsh, which is, of course, you know, arsh, we say God is sitting on the throne, means that arsh is the interim between God and the creation, okay? And whatever is mentioned about arsh in terms of physical description is just to describe it in a metaphorical way. For example, arsh has 4 pillars. Now, the pillars are physical, isn't it? But when they say the pillars are Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, then we have to turn our mind to grasp it in that way. And it's not an easy concept, of course, just to read Sadir and understand it. But if you want a deeper understanding of it, I think we better look at Al-Mizan, when Allama Tabatabai actually is explaining the metaphors and how these are combined with other traditions to tell us what Arsh really is.
Thank you. My second question was about it's about shirk, and the way I understand it, one of the ways you fall into shirk is if you give one of the attributes of God to one of His creation. So one told, like, man can be powerful, but only God is omnipotent, only God is all powerful. And when I was reading Ziyarat Jamiah, there's a line in there that says, God strengthened you, i.e. elevate, with His omnipotence. And when you see some of the lines in Ziyarat Jamiah, you kind of think, is God giving His attributes to the Imams? So I want to know, where do we draw the lines and how is it justifiable?
Out of what power you were talking about?
It just, there was a line that said...
no, out of what power you are talking now? Where this power comes from?
God.
Now this can be less, can be more, isn't it? So He can empower people with more or empower with less. Now that we are sitting here and talking, this is power of God that we are using. So, of course, all power goes to God, but He can empower His creatures like He has empowered us. Yes? We have one question there from ladies.
Thank you for your series, it's been amazing so far. I just have 2 questions, it's slightly long, so forgive me. One is the concept of thawab. It's related to the lectures a few nights ago.
The concept of thawab?
Thawab, yeah.
Okay.
Can thawab be seen as a means and not an end, in the sense, should we aim for actions, I mean, not to be because the thawab is great, so like the feeding the poor or salat al-layl, but should be done out of love and wanting to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or like in order to elevate ourselves spiritually. Or alternatively, can we say that the true thawab that we talk of is actually the spirituality gained from the act, or the closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rather than a checkbook type approach, which relates to the hadith of the Imam, which says there's believers who are either slaves, businessmen, or free people. That's the first question. The second one is this love for Allah in the heart that we talked about. The love for the A'imma and the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt. Now, I know I'm breaking them down quite simplistically, but I just want to try and understand it, that should it be that we should have pure love, pure sincere love for Allah in the heart, and then love for His messengers and hujjat, not in the heart, but somewhere else, but I don't know where. Or sincere love for Allah in the heart, alongside the love for the A'imma and His hujjah, because they are sent to earth as guides for us by Him. or is it something else? And what is the right approach? I know it's a bit systematic and the heart is more of an emotional thing, but if you could just share any thoughts on that. Thank you.
Yeah. Those three categories of people, that's the businessmen and slaves and ahrar, the free men, these are not things that we can force upon ourselves. We have to gain that position. So most of the people worship God out of fear. Now we cannot tell them you shouldn't worship God out of fear. Yeah, we can tell them it's not good, but until they reach a higher level of understanding, they cannot change attitude. And of course we tell them, yes, fear God. Fear God. If you do this, for example, if you harm someone, Allah is going to punish you. And if they refrain because of that, is good. This is ibadah. And those who worship God for the thawab, for the reward in paradise, that's good as well. We don't tell them, no, stop worshiping because you are worshiping for a wrong thing. Now, gradually after people worship because of these two things, when we practice the faith, then a higher degree of understanding comes to our hearts, which will tell us that, well, if you worship God for His worth, not for anything else. So this is a degree that we have to attain. And therefore, we somehow commend all the three groups. Anyone worshiping God for any of these causes, we really, of course, do not advise them not to do, but we advise them to get to a higher degree rather than staying in that position. About love of God, you see, when you love someone, you love anything which is related to them. In this, it's the same love. It's not something else or somewhere else. The same love. When you love someone or something, you love anything which is related to it. For example, just a very mean example. When you go, for example, to a holiday trip, and something, for example, a food there, you eat, but you like the holiday very much, and that food that you ate will always be reminiscent of that very enjoyable trip. So you always love that food because of that memory that you have from that trip. Usually the ulama, when they answer the people who criticize Shia for kissing the zarir or kissing the walls, they quote a line of poetry from Majnun: أمر على الديار ديار ليلى أقبل ذا الجدار وذا الجدار وما حب الجدار فحسن قلبي ولكن حب من سكن الديار. It means that I move into the neighborhood of Layla and I kiss the walls, this wall and that wall. It's not the walls which have taken my love, but it's the love of the one who lives here. So when we love Allah, we love anything which is related to Him. Now, I am, of course, Prophet, peace be upon him. Certainly, this love is love of Allah. And then anything which Allah has ordered us and commanded us, anything which goes with the mercy of Allah, anything which goes with kindness, we love that as well. So we love our relatives, we love our friends. It's all because of the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So all comes from one source, all is in one place. And the more you love God, the more your love to others would manifest itself. Okay, do we have more time? One more question here, and one question there.
I was wondering if you can throw some light on the relationship between knowledge and purification of the heart. Is knowledge a prerequisite, or can one return your purification without being an ulama?
Yeah, very good question. Without being ulama or without being knowledge? Two things. As I said, Faiz Khashani says there are two types of knowledge. Knowledge sought for itself, that is the spiritual knowledge which comes from purity of heart, and knowledge which is sought not for itself, but for that knowledge which is sought for itself. Now, that knowledge which is not for itself is knowledge of fiqh. These are all spiritual knowledge. How to worship God, how to pray, how to fast, and knowledge of ethics. Now, knowledge of fiqh, knowledge of ethics, knowledge of the Quran, they are all prerequisites for purification. Okay? Then that purification brings knowledge of the heart, which is sought for itself, knowledge of the second degree, not of ordinary degree. So I think they are very much concomitant, they are very much parallel to each other. The more you increase in this knowledge of first degree, and you practice it, of course, the most important is practicing it, then the more pure your heart will become and the more enlightened. Then the more enlightened you become, the more eager you will become to see how you could purify yourself more. So it's a dialectical sort of relationship, and it spirals higher and higher until we stop, of course, striving, then it stops. Okay, the last question, sister.
Thank you very much, that has been very inspiring.
Thank you.
I have a question with regards to, that snapshot that you spoke about, where you maybe receive a moment of that kind of level of where your heart suddenly connects with your soul. First of all, why does that end? Is there any reason why that ends, and why does it end very, like you said, it's like a snapshot, it can come and go. And secondly, how can we, because often when that happens, if that does happen, it leaves you in a state where you feel worse off than you were before, because you maybe have taken a step up and then gone down, so you actually feel worse. So how do you get to a level where
You see, it's just like a blockage, opened for a moment, and then blocked by something else again. It's like that. And even that snapshot is very elevating, and because it's a connection. And that connection would bring some more higher knowledge for the soul, the way we understand God, the way we understand His relation to the creation. And it remains, the knowledge remains. The door will be closed very quickly. With Aim alayhi salam, of course, there is no blockage at all. So Adam told that I continuous remembrance. For us, because at certain points, for example, you go to the haram, you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and suddenly that snapshot comes because either the atmosphere or the holiness of the Imam would help, the holiness of the place would help, and the blockage is somehow opened, but immediately something else goes and blocks it. You see? We have to work on these blockages so that they go away. But it doesn't mean that we go higher to a higher and come down. No, it's just a gift which is given to you, and we have to appreciate it, inshallah.
Okay, thank you. And the other question is to do with the balance between fear and love. You said that I think you were saying the more you understand who Allah is, the more you begin to acknowledge and love Him. I think the more you begin to do that, the less there is a chance that you fear Him less, because you recognize Him more for how loving and gracious He is, as opposed to somebody who may punish you. How do you create that balance within your heart and your mind that you should, whereby you can still fear Him, because in Allah we ask Allah to give us that ability to fear Him and love Him at the same time?
You see, in that second, third, fourth, fifth degree level of knowledge, the more you know God, the more beauty you see of Him. And in the same time, the more greatness, the more power, the more justice you see of Him. So the love develops and fear develops as well. They go hand in hand. This is why the Imam says, Allahumma amla qalbi hubban lak wa khashyatan min. Fill my heart with your love and with your khashya, with your fear. Because the higher level types of knowledge, would give a different perspective of God that we know now. Our knowledge about God here, I don't want to say it's very superficial, very basic, but it's not something that people like, for example, the Imams or the awliya would think about God or would see God. They see God in an absolutely different light. And when I say light, light is just a metaphor, you see. It's not light, it's an openness. It's connecting to a world which you see things, not seeing, you feel, you experience things in a better way, in a more reasonable way. Everything makes sense then. Everything said in the Quran makes sense. Why am I new ta'wil? Because they could see the Quran in that higher degree knowledge, higher, in that brighter light than we see. Therefore, we don't know ta'wil of the Quran. They know ta'wil of the Quran because it is enlightened for them in that light. So, yes, the more we know about, the more we love Him, the more we fear Him. It goes hand in hand. And again, it's not something that we can force. It's not something we can force upon ourselves. It's an attitude. It's a quality which comes with that knowledge. Okay, inshallah, until next lesson. وصلى الله على محمد وعلى